I walk through the shadow of death left to fear. This is a journey through the halls of hell.
Yes people, what is good? I am BA and today I want to talk about the movie Groundhog Day. Now, as a rule of thumb, the romantic comedy genre is just one that I personally don't go for. There's very few genres in film that I really just don't like as a aesthetic, one of them being period dramas as well, and another would be romantic comedies. And my sole exception in that genre is Groundhog Day. It's a famously known romantic comedy. I don't gravitate toward or rewatch any romantic comedy I've ever had to sit through in my entire life, but Groundhog Day, it's definitely more comedy than romantic, first of all, and second of all, even if it is still a romantic comedy, it is the best, funniest romantic comedy of all known time to man and fish. It stars Bill Murray as a narcissistic, glum, moody weather broadcaster, and he is in his absolute prime in this film. This is, Ghostbusters era Bill Murray, where he just took stoic apathy to a new level. I mean, seriously, Bill Murray is so deadpan, I held a funeral for the pan. And it works brilliantly in this film because he's surrounded by a somewhat upbeat news team. He's going to cover a story he's really not interested in. He has to go and cover the Groundhog Day ceremony in Puxatony, I think, or the groundhog's called Puxatony, Phil. And it's a tradition of the town, and whenever the groundhog comes out, or if it doesn't come out, decides whether or not they get a few more weeks of spring or summer, or some shit. I don't know about the groundhog ceremony, and I've seen the film about 50 times. It's the one line of dialogue I could give one less of a shit about. Anyway, he's not interested in going to cover this thing, and his producer, I guess, or the person who's both directing the cameraman and him, is played by Andie MacDowell. And this is her first time working with this guy, and she gets a really bad first impression of him, given how glum, moody and narcissistic he is throughout their day. And it goes about as you would expect until the next day he wakes up and it's the same day. And that is the basic premise of Groundhog Day. I'm sure you've all seen it, but if you haven't, it's just about a guy who wakes up in a time loop in this shitty little town on the day where he has to do this stupid story about the groundhog ceremony, and it doesn't stop. And he doesn't know how to make it change. And again, this is just one of those films where it's not about the premise, it's about what the premise would do to a person who was encountered with it. And this film explores it amazingly. It's like the 7 stages of grief or something. The first day he wakes up, he's just obviously very confused. The second, third, fourth day he starts to wake up, he starts to understand that, he can manipulate this and use this to his advantage. So he starts to do small things like he'll learn all the information of a woman one day to use it for when he goes back the next day, and he can act like he knew it in the past, so maybe he can get a chance to sleep with her. Or he knows the exact moment security guards are going to have their back turned, so he can take money out the back of a bank van. So it's his narcissism that comes into play to begin with. He's just figuring out how he can use these newfound abilities to benefit himself. Not to say that that doesn't continue throughout the film, it just gets to be for less dickheadish purposes, I guess. I mean, I've got to talk about this guy at some point in the review, so I'm going to do it right now. Ned Ryerson. Man, the Ned Ryerson part of this movie, it's like one of my favourite jokes in the history of cinema. It's so simple. The first time Bill Murray's character is walking across a street, he steps into what looks like a shallow puddle, and it's actually a big deep one, and he gets one half of his trouser completely soaked. And just prior to that, he's just bumped into someone who recognises him, who sells insurance, called Ned Ryerson. And Ned Ryerson has just irritated the living shit out of him, and then as he's tried to walk away, he's stepped in the puddle, and Ned Ryerson says, well, you want to watch out for that first step, it's a doozy. And if that wasn't annoying enough, every day on his walk now, because these days repeat, he has to encounter Ned Ryerson. So the second day, he sees him coming on the street and he's like, oh god, it's Ned Ryerson. And instead of engaging him in conversation, he's like, fuck this, I'm just going to walk past him. Walks past him, steps in the puddle, you got to watch out for that first step, it's a doozy. Oh man, and the punchline to that segment is just one day Ned recognises him and he just knocks him out. It's just a brilliant piece of comedy which is told over, a little 3-4 minutes, split up into 3 or 4 segments. Now, in amongst this, he's kind of starting to get a thing for this producer who he's working with, played by Andie MacDowell. So he starts to figure out how to shallowly lure her into his bed, like he has managed to some of the other women around the town. But he finds out she's a really tough nut to crack. And that all gets the better of him, and then we get a segment which is going to be hard for me to talk about on YouTube, which is a shame because I feel like we shouldn't act as if these things don't exist. Some humans choose to do these things, and it's important we can face it with honesty rather than bury our heads in the sand about the subject. Now, there is a fine line. I wouldn't want anybody to try and encourage other people to do these things either, but people have done and will do these things, and we have to face the world as honestly as possible as a society if we are to evolve. So with all that being said, there's a really deep segment next where he just thinks, what is the point of it all? And he thinks of various methods to take his own life. He drives on the train tracks with some drunk guys, he jumps off a cliff, he electrocutes himself, everything you can think of. He's just done with it. And even that doesn't help. Every morning he just wakes up back in the bed and he realizes that he is truly trapped. And then what happens to the psyche when you realize that all your narcissism and all your tricks, and even when you've got nothing left but contempt for it all, that doesn't work? What do? He is forced to actually make the most of the new world he is living in, and he starts to develop genuine bonds. There's a really sad segment where he builds this friendship up with a homeless guy, and on the first night the homeless guy dies at a certain time, so he tries to the next day feed him lots and keep him warm, but again the homeless guy just dies at the same time, and it's a horrible segment just about, that was that guy's time, unfortunately. And we start to see the true humanity in this character and him genuinely change as a person. And while at first he was pursuing Andie MacDowell for incredibly shallow reasons, now he genuinely loves her, and it's not like he's trying to impress her. He's actually changed to be someone she would want to be with. And this all culminates, of course, in the auction, where he's just had an incredible day, helped a kid from falling out of the tree. He went around and basically did what is now his daily routine of errands and saving people and helping people out. And because of all this, Andie MacDowell actually buys him at the auction for charity. And the next day he wakes up and that has broken the loop. Don't ask me about what magic was going on. Don't tell me about the science. I don't need to hear it. Some movies would have completely ruined this by explaining exactly through scientific method or mythicism why that occurred, but I am completely happy with them never explaining it. It's just what happened, and when she bought him, she broke the loop. It's just what happened, and hopefully they lived happily ever after. And that has been BA's recounting of the greatest romantic comedy of all time, but also just an incredible comedy. So if you haven't seen this, do yourself a favour and go and check out Groundhog Day. And if you've liked this reaction, click like, subscribe, comment down below, come over to the Patreon, sign up and support me personally, and until next time, I've been BA, peace.